What's up guys, in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to use some of the basic tools in Photoshop, such as the move tool, the paintbrush, eraser, how to make shapes, just general stuff like that. Let's get right into it. Alright, so now we have our blank Photoshop canvas. We created a brand new project. At the very top of the toolbar we have here the move tool, which uses the hotkey V on your keyboard by default. And what this does is move your selected layer. I'll be using that in every single one of these videos. I'm sure that you'll use it in every single one of your projects. I'm gonna move down towards the bottom of the toolbar here. If I click and hold on this tool here, I can see a whole bunch of options. These are the shapes, and these are the shape tools. So from top to bottom we have rectangle, ellipse, triangle, polygon, line, and custom shape. I'll go over each one by one. Let's start at the top with rectangle. You can see here my cursor, it looks kind of like a crosshair, which lets me know that I'm ready to use the shape tool. If I click and drag, I will create a rectangle, and it will fill in with the color that I have selected up at the top here in this little spot. You can edit the size of your rectangle by clicking and dragging on the corners. If you just freely do it with just your mouse, it's freehand like that. But if you hold shift, it will lock itself in place and not let you change the dimensions of it. We also have these little dots here, which let you add curvature to your shape. So if I drag it in, then it adds more of a rounded edge. And it has these little lines here to help you visualize it. Let's move on to the ellipse tool, this being the circle version of the rectangle tool that we just used. I can click and drag to create a circle. But I want to create a proper circle, I don't want to do an oval, so I'm going to hold the shift key while I'm doing it, and it will create a perfect circle. I'm going to go up to the top and change my color. I'll change it to this purple that's here. That way we can better see it. And I'll move it over to the side so it's not on top of that rectangle. Next we have the triangle tool, and this does, as you would imagine, make a triangle. So by default, it's gonna do it like that. If you hold shift, it'll be an equilateral triangle, but if you don't, then you can freely do it. And you can add the edge rounding just like you can do to the rectangle as well. And I'm just going to change the color so we have a little bit of a visual difference. Alright. Next we have the polygon tool, which when we click and drag does a pentagon, the 5-edged shape. Up at the top here you can actually change how many sides that you want on your shape. So if I click 8, I want to make an octagon. Now when I go to create it, it'll make an octagon. Like always, you can bevel the edges. Looks almost like a circle there. But this is how the shape tools work. This is how you can change your shapes. I'll go back up the toolbar, and I'm going to show you guys the brush tool. There is also a pencil tool, and they work pretty much the same, but the brush has a nice feathered edge, whereas the pencil is hard pixels. It doesn't have that gradient, that feathering on the edges, and I'll show you how both look. So I'm going to use the brush first. At the top of the screen, I can change all of the attributes of the brush itself. I'm going to make it pretty big, and I'm just going to make a little zigzag. So this is how the brush looks. If I switch over to the pencil tool, I'll do another one right beside it so you can see the difference. So the pencil has those hard edges, and the brush has that feathered, gradiented edge, makes it look a bit more natural like. So that's the real difference between the pencil and the brush. Both have their uses. The next tool I'll show you guys is the eraser. So the basic eraser works pretty similar to the brush and pencil that I just showed you. I'll make it a bit bigger so that we can see what it's really doing. I'm going to go down to the layers panel and select my rectangle because I'm going to erase from that. And when I click, It will ask me to rasterize the layer so I can edit it. We'll click OK. And then I can erase from it. As you would expect, the eraser lets you erase. You can edit all of these settings up at the top to change exactly what you want to be about it. And the last tool I have here that I want to show you guys is the type tool. I'm going to only be using the horizontal type tool, but they also have the vertical type tool and vertical type mask and horizontal type mask. The differences are that horizontal and vertical will create text that's horizontal or vertical, and the mask will create a mask of horizontal or vertical text. You can explore with those when you want to, but just as the example, as the lesson here, I'm just going to do the horizontal. So I'll go over to my canvas, and there's two ways that you can use this tool. You can either click or you can click and drag. For the text, clicking and dragging will create a text box, and it will only allow you to create text inside of that box. I'm going to simply click and it will create a free typing layer. So by default, it says lorem ipsum. We can add some miscellaneous letters. As I type and enter, it will freely create more text. We can select it all to, at the top of the screen, edit the font and its version. You can edit the font size. I can make it quite a bit larger. You can edit the edging of it. You can create how it shows up, either left aligned, right aligned, or centered. You can, of course, change the color. You can add a warp to it. By clicking that, you'll have this pop-up, and then you can select what different version you want for it. I'll give it an arc and click OK, and you can see, obviously, that added an arc to it. And by clicking this, we have this pop-out folder that has a whole bunch of more settings in there. Last but not least, we have 3D, which when you click, will ask you about creating a 3D layer, and so it'll default change it into being 3D. You can edit the point of view of it. You can edit all of the settings pertaining to how the 3D text looks. I haven't messed with this very much with the clients that I've worked for, with the projects that I've worked on, but it's there if you want to make some interesting popped up 3D text. So that's going to be about it for today's little video lesson on some of the tools here in Photoshop. If you have any questions for me, leave them in the comments below. Love responding to you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Adios.